Okay, so 12.1, last time we talked about asexual reproduction and then even starts of sexual reproduction. So the second part of this lecture then are some specifics here. So chromosome number, for example. How many chromosomes do humans have? 46, which means how many pairs? 23. So we have, using this vocab term, we have 23 homologous pairs or homologous chromosomes. They're often called homologs, just to abbreviate. Instead of saying homologous chromosomes, they're homologs. Remember the prefix homo means same. They're the same chromosomes. So when you line them up, if the top part, say codes for hair color, then your other one codes for the same thing. The genes are located in the same place. However, they're not exact copies of each other. You got one of your homologous chromosomes from dad, you got the other one from mom. Mom might say be blonde hair and dad might say brown. I won't go red. Red's a whole different gene. So we'll talk about that later when you guys do baby face. So red's in a different spot. You either have red or you don't have red. It's kind of cool. Okay, so homologous chromosomes, same size, have same information, however, not the exact same sequence because there's different alleles, there's different possibilities that you got from mom or dad. Okay, so we have 22 chromosomes that are completely homologous. Females actually have 23 pairs, but males, their 23 pair is not a match. You guys know what I'm talking about? Females are known as XX. Do you guys remember this? And males are XY. So the males really have 24 different chromosomes, where females have that pair, so they only have 23 chromosomes. Now don't get confused, and this is after DNA replication, that's why they're in the X shape. If they hadn't replicated, our chromosomes are linear, and the Y is just a little guy, never the shape of a Y, right? It would copy itself. We just named them Y and X. Okay? So this does, males do determine gender. We'll talk more about that. So I talked about that. So for sexual reproduction, we have to make gametes. The gametes are haploid. So I heard you guys discussing this vocabulary. Haploid, I memorize it, HA, like half, has half the chromosomes, one of every pair. And we need to get down to half the chromosomes so that the gametes can fertilize each other and get back to the diploid state, right? The sperm or pollen, if you're a land plant, is carrying one of each chromosome pair. The egg has the other one. We get back to the diploid state, right? Where we have two of each chromosome. Now, all your body cells are known as somatic cells, so you want to just memorize that. All of your cells are somatic except for your gametes. So all human cells are diploid, right? They have the pairs, except for the gametes. So somatic cells are body cells, they're all your normal cells. Gametes are your sex cells, and they're haploid. Okay, so I think I talked about all that. So it's once fertilization has occurred, the sperm breaks up. It was just the carrier of the DNA, and the egg becomes the one cell that's going to start dividing through mitosis and turning into the full organism it's going to be. Once fertilization has occurred, it's called a zygote. Okay, so back to making gametes. So remember the cell division a few chapters ago, what was that called? Mitosis for eukaryotes, right? for eukaryotic cells that have a nucleus, right? Remember, prokaryotes have one chromosome. It's much easier, binary fission, but we're talking about cells that have a nucleus. So mitosis was making exact copies, making two daughter cells, making somatic cells, making diploid cells, right? Haploid cells, in this case, need to be made through the process of meiosis. It's similar, but more complicated. Also want to realize that some organisms, like some fungus and simple plants, can live in the haploid state. So they can actually produce spores through meiosis, and then the spores can develop into the plant, but it's haploid. I mean, go back to your mom and dad's chromosomes that you got. You got pairs. Did you really need to have instructions to have brown hair and blonde hair? You didn't, right? So why can't organisms just live with one copy of every chromosome? The instructions are all there. There's no dominance, recessiveness, there's no interaction, there doesn't need to be. I might have mentioned this to you guys last class, like ants. Some of the ants, right, are living in haploid. Some bees are haploid, and those are all males when they're like that. But spores also can, if they're not used, they can be fertilized and do sexual reproduction, but if nothing fertilizes it, they can grow into an individual. Sometimes they're not as complicated as the individual made through sexual reproduction. But anyway. So I threw this in here. It wasn't in there, but I did want you guys to realize that there are some species of plants and animals that have lost the ability to reproduce sexually. So these whip-tailed lizards, they're all females. The factor that led to this natural selection, we don't know. But here they don't even have genders. They're just females, and they're doing fine just developing from eggs in the haploid state. We talked a little bit, came up with a question on that last time. Okay, meiosis versus meiosis. There's three main differences. There's actually four, so let's add one to this. But cells have to go through two divisions. And in that way, you're going to end up with 4 daughter cells. How many daughter cells did you end up with mitosis? You ended up with 2, right? So there's a difference. So maybe add 4 cells to that one, 4 daughter cells. Now, mitosis made exact copies, but in meiosis you have some parts of the process that allow for mixing up. The gametes that are going to be made are going to be different from each other depending on this mix-up. And that's why you don't look just like your brother or sister from the same exact parents. You don't look, you might have some similarities, of course, but you have some differences. And that's what you get for being diploid too, with having 2 sets of instructions. So I'll talk more about this, but real quick, it's the segregation of what chromosome did you get? Did you get moms or did you get dads? And then crossing over mixed up mom and dads. So you really didn't get just moms. You got a mixture of moms or dads. But still there's that randomness of what you ended up with. The third thing is the homologs pair up side by side during that first division, like I just mentioned with crossing over, and they actually exchange pieces of the DNA, making them a mixture, and that's called crossing over. Okay, let's listen to this.
As in mitosis, each chromosome enters meiosis as a pair of sister chromatids joined at the centromere. During prophase 1, homologs pair and cross over. Homologs attach to spindle fibers from opposite poles during metaphase 1 and migrate to opposite poles during anaphase 1. Following telophase 1, each daughter cell contains a single mixed set of paternal and maternal chromosomes. These chromosomes are not replicated before prophase 2 begins. During metaphase 2, sister chromatids attach to spindle fibers from opposite poles, as in mitosis. Sister chromatids separate during anaphase 2. The result is 4 haploid cells.
Okay, so the whole thing there entirely, and I'm going to back it up to the first part in a second, that's meiosis. So you can see there's two separate divisions. Now, how many chromosomes are left in these daughter cells, in the gametes here? Can you guys see them from where you're at? How many chromosomes can you count? 2. Okay. Now, back up here, telophase 1. I know it's hard to see with the spindle fibers. Or here, even look at prophase 2. How many chromosomes do you see in each cell? How many chromosomes? It's still counted as 2. Okay? Yes, there is extra. There's twice the DNA when you see the X. Right, you guys? But this is a temporary thing. It's only been replicated because we had to copy the DNA. Okay? So these chromosomes, when they're in linear form, that's a chromosome. But also when they're connected at the centromere, remember this? That is still just considered one chromosome. Don't worry, it's going to split. Now you guys also know them as sister chromatids, correct? And they are sister chromatids. Are these exact copies of each other? Are the sister chromatids exact copies of each other? Yes. Okay? So that is either a paternal or a maternal chromosome that's been duplicated waiting to be separated. The second division, meiosis 2, actually looks more like mitosis because they haven't paired up. And you could see metaphase looks the same, anaphase, and all that if the organism was just 2 chromosomes. Now let's back it up and look at...
As in mitosis, each chromosome enters meiosis as a pair of sister chromatids joined at the centromere. During prophase 1, homologs pair and cross over. Homologs attach to spindle fibers from opposite poles during metaphase 1 and migrate to opposite poles during anaphase 1. Following telophase 1, each daughter cell contains...
Okay, so let's look at this one closely. So here, this is pretty awesome, is you got prophase, their X-shaped synthesis of DNA has already occurred, right, before it entered meiosis. And they're starting to organize, and it's called synapse. I'm not testing you on that, but I'm kind of curious. That's when the homologous pairs find each other. This is still a mystery on exactly how they know which chromosome is which and why they find each other and get right next to each other. But they do. They pair up. So see the metaphase then? They're going to line up across the metaphase plate in pairs. Because during this first division, we're not going to rip apart centromeres. We're just going to segregate the parental chromosomes, the homologous chromosomes. So the pairs are already separated after this one, but we have to do a second division because they have twice the DNAs they need. That wasn't very good English either. Okay, and then also they're representing crossing over. When they do find each other, they exchange pieces. This is making more diversity, so you don't just inherit your dad's chromosome. You inherit dad's chromosome that was made when he made his sperm. And this process happened to make his sperm. Now he is built of his mom's chromosome and his dad's chromosome, your grandparents on his side. So when they got together, those 2 chromosomes, when they synapsed, they exchanged material. So that way you're not just inheriting grandma's or grandpa's, you have a combination of his 2 chromosomes. They have swapped. Does that make some sense, you guys? Okay, we'll get a little more. But again, I want you really, what the take-home is here, is crossing over makes more variety. Does that make some sense? And you also, just the randomness of 23 pairs. And are you getting mainly moms, or are you getting mainly dads on that pair? And then what are you getting on the next pair? It's 50-50 every single time. So the odds of the gametes being exactly the same is very rare, okay, because of the segregation of the homologs and crossing over. Okay, so then that said, actually let me go back. Did it skip something? So again, with the 2 divisions, you get 4 cells. Now, the important thing to remember about meiosis is it is reducing the chromosomes, which needs to occur to make haploid, so that 2 haploid can fuse and get back to diploid. And again, it's providing genetic variation. Also, just like mitosis, it ensures that the gametes got every chromosome they needed, right? It didn't get 2 of, one and none of another one. Just like mitosis, right? All the chromosomes had to line up. You wanted exact copies. You needed all 46 chromosomes. So this process also is organized step by step, making sure the gametes have everything they need. Are there questions right now, you guys? Okay, now this is kind of interesting. Mitosis divided the cytoplasm evenly, like the mitochondria and cytoskeleton, all that. For males in making sperm, same thing, okay? Every time meiosis occurs, you get 4 good sperm. And they don't need much because they're just transporting DNA. They just need to survive for a little bit on their little voyage, right? Whereas eggs are different. That egg needs to hold everything it needs. So this picture is a little more simplified than I like. So think about it as compared to when you saw the sperm one on the other page. So here we only get actually 1 good gamete. 1 gamete's going to be the hog and going to keep everything. So on this picture, you got 46 chromosomes. When it goes through the first division, you do get 2 cells, but 1 is really small, and it's just getting rid of the chromosome, half the chromosomes. The other one's going to stay big and keep all the cytoplasm. Does that make some sense? Now, this 23, sometimes it just gets recycled, just disintegrates, and we're just going to stay with this one dividing now. Okay, and then this one, so this picture shows this little guy dividing, though, into a little polar body. So the cells that are being made to take on the extra DNA are called polar bodies. Again, I'm not going to test it on you, but I just want you guys to realize that the egg needs to be big. It needs to have everything it needs. So through meiosis, we get 1 egg. Does that make some sense? Yeah. Okay, so moving on. So this is a new slide. It is a vocab word, so I wanted to mention it here. So, and I've mentioned it already, right? Here's an example with moss, alterations of generation. They can live at the haploid. Here's spores you see, and they grow into a real moss plant. They can make gametes through mitosis, because they're only haploid, right? And those gametes can fertilize. They can get back to the diploid, grow into it, and then they're going to go meiosis to make their haploid. So that's called alteration of generations. You have to realize there's a lot of different ways we can reproduce, and sometimes asexual is best, only takes 1. Sometimes the diversity is best, so we're going to do sexual reproduction. That's what I just said. I'm going to skip this. We're not going to worry about it. I talked to you guys about the flower. Okay, so then real quick, I'm not testing you on any of this, but I know we have questions about it. So here is your female estrus cycle, and everything is related. It's pretty complicated here. You have these pituitary hormones. They regulate the development of the egg, so we call them follicles at first. Well, the thing that's developing the egg is called the follicle. Simultaneously, we have estrogen and progesterone hormones building up the uterus lining to take on the egg if it happens to get fertilized. This graph shows you the estrus cycle without fertilization. So you see the decline and the shedding of the uterus lining. And then, one sec. Oops.